huge glass dome in the heart of the Arizona desert. This 3-acre miniature world is a replica of the planet Earth, the first biosphere. It is therefore called Biosphere 2. Four men and 4 women have been living for 2 years in this completely sealed environment, producing their own food and recycling their air, water, and waste. A controversial experiment which aims to be ecological, scientific, and futuristic. If it is possible for man to survive in these conditions, nothing will stop him from moving on to other planets. In the meantime, Abigail Elling, a 34-year-old American marine biologist from Yale University who heads the scientific research inside the biosphere, tries to meet the challenge. In the southwest of France, close to Toulouse, the Vajrayogini Institute. This Buddhist community and teaching center aims to preserve the Tibetan Buddhist tradition. This monument is called a stupa. It represents the mind's transformation into matter and back again. With the tree of life at its center and containing millions of mantras for peace in the world, this stupa is said to bring harmony and prosperity to the area. Inika Beretti, a French woman of Dutch origin, became a Buddhist nun after having raised her 3 sons. At the institute, she studies with Geshe Tengye, her teacher and spiritual guide, hoping that she will ultimately reach liberation and attain Buddhahood. Biosphere 2, Vajrayogini Institute. 2 different worlds, one scientific, the other spiritual. 2 different universes, each deeply concerned with the survival of mankind and its home, the planet Earth. For several days, Abigail and Inika will share and compare their experiences via video phone, the only possible link between Biosphere 2 and the outside world.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
I don't know how much you know about Biosphere 2, but I guess maybe we should start with a visual tour so you can have a bit of an appreciation of the artificial world I live in as opposed to the natural world you're in.
Sure. I'd love to.
This is our rainforest. Part of Biosphere 2 is a wilderness area. The rainforest was modeled on the Amazonian rainforest. This is our ocean. It's from the Caribbean. To the right is a savanna, a grassland savanna. Now we're coming over a marshland from the Floridas. And we're heading on into the desert. An approximate 3,000 species were collected from around the world to simulate our natural world, our planet Earth. For us to live in here, we also need that wilderness because all those plants are producing oxygen for us to breathe, and it's all integrated. Biosphere 2 really bridges the ecology and technology. Below all this life is a technical basement, and you see machines to make winds machines to make waves, flows, currents, waterfalls, rain. This is our agriculture. It's our farm, which supplies us with all our food, from potatoes to rice to goat milk, eggs from chickens. We have to have a very high intensive agriculture to support all the people, and it has to be self-sustaining. We are completely dependent upon our environment.
Don't you find it funny to just go from one world into another world, from the ocean into the savannah, from the savannah into the marsh? Yes, it's like speeding up your world, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so. It's cycles inside Biosphere 2, we estimate to be thousands of times faster.
Thousands?
Thousands. And so, for example, if I have a cup of tea here, this is my cup of morning mint tea, this water has traveled in a couple of days maybe from the ocean to the agriculture and then is my cup of tea. So things are very, very fast, and you can feel it. Let me give you an example. If I need to repair a broken pipe, I have to open a can of glue, and then when I open the glue can, gases will come out of the glue, and immediately we will see that in our atmosphere with very fine machinery. So I have changed here, and I now know in a very profound, experimental, experiential way that I have a direct effect on everything in my world. If I take an action to hurt my environment, I see it right away.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking that when we pollute the earth and we do damage, it's our grandchildren who get into trouble, isn't it? And you, if you do some damage, then you get it into your plate next morning.
Yes, but basically the fundamental shift in my perception is that our planet is a closed system. Biosphere 2 is a closed system. So virtually everything I've learned in here applies to our planet. What can you do in your practice to help the environment? Is that something that you can take action to the outside world, or not?
I'm very much interested in it, of course. But I think monks and nuns generally are just working on their own minds, trying to understand what we are, what this nature is we live in, why we are doing such damage, and then teaching it to others. We work that way. If one person changes his or her mind, you see, it's just like a little drop of oil. That person's life will become harmonious, and then everything around it, more and more and more, will become harmonious also in a greater and greater circle.
Born in India 600 years before Christ, the Buddha taught that man is fully responsible for his life, and that he is able to free himself from ignorance, the source of all his suffering. Through meditation and by developing compassion, he can reach Buddhahood, the fully enlightened state. Philosophy, as much as religion, refuting the existence of a creator god, Buddhism first developed throughout India and China. In the 8th century AD, it reached Tibet in the form of Mahayana Buddhism, which seeks to liberate not just the individual, but all beings. In 1959, the Chinese invasion forced the Tibetan government into exile. The Dalai Lama, spiritual and temporal leader of the Tibetans, has been living in Dharamsala in the north of India ever since. Inika has lived and studied in Dharamsala for 3 years. She comes back to visit now and then.
So these are mani wheels. We think that if we turn these wheels, then we set off all this mantra energy flying into the air, and that it is very beneficial for everybody. So these people aren't actually fighting. They're debating. Sometimes they get so excited they even hit each other over the head. Look. And all these gestures are symbolic. This Buddhist logic is very, very sharp. There is just no way you can remain confused about anything. And sometimes it's really painful. Here I'm meeting my old friends again. I lived with these nuns for 1 year, and I was so happy to see them again. Oh, she has really shaped up this one. She was very shy when I knew her. They debate every morning, and they debate every evening, and then in between they have teachings, and of course time to study.
But why did you leave India?
I sort of had the impression I was finished there. And also, I think that for our Western bodies, living in India is very hard. It's wonderful for the mind, very blissful for the mind, but very, very hard on the body.
How long have you been a nun?
I've been a nun for 8 years.
Uh-huh.
So that's really nothing. It's just like one's first day in kindergarten, you know. Actually, I have a feeling that having been a wife and mother is very important to my being a nun. It's a funny thing to say, isn't it? But it seems like such a very rich foundation. My husband died when my 3 boys yes, that's my husband. And it, you know, I still get a shock every time I see his face. And he died 13 years ago. I took care of the boys and made a living for all of us. Oh, here's my son. So you see, one can be a nun and a mother and a grandmother because he has 2 children. I don't feel that I broke away from it at all. It was just, I just went on growing.
Well, I find myself in a similar situation in that I'm also a mother. I have a son, and at the same time I'm very much a career woman and trying to bring both worlds together and not compromise either. But at the same time it's been a great challenge to do that in this modern world, which sometimes isn't so modern.
Yeah.
I was educated very, very well. Gosh, I was supposed to get married and live at home, and I was to get a traditional job, maybe teaching. That was the fate of myself, for example, but I chose not to do that. And I am here living inside the Biosphere in a very, a project looked at in America as way out there.
"200 workers took part in the building of the Biosphere, which began in 1986 and lasted 5 years. Assembling the exterior structure was the first challenge. The 30 miles of joints had to be absolutely watertight. The second challenge was to select and bring back alive species collected thousands of miles away, trees and plants from Guyana and Venezuela, algae, fish, and coral from the Bahamas, as well as from the Yucatan and Mexico. Abigail and the other inhabitants of the dome participated in all the work and all the expeditions.
Well, I think the thing that we talked about is cutting corners.
Once the dome was sealed, tortoises, insects, and hummingbirds were added. When the ocean gave birth to its first wave, Biosphere 2 was ready at last.
You know, I remember talking about the insects before.
Financed
And I was
entirely by
telling you
Texas
about
billionaire Ed
the
Bass,
cockroaches.
Biosphere 2 has cost
And
more
instead
than
of we get everybody
$150
around the
million.
corner, I'll tell you the rest of my story.
Deliberate efforts to promote tourism are playing a major role in paying off this debt. Almost 2,000 visitors per day.
Over across along the cliff, we have
Though
the
cut
savanna.
off from the world
Down
under their
left, we
glass
have the
dome,
ocean.
the
On the other
Biosphereans
side
can
of the
see
ocean
that
is the
world
marsh.
go
On the
marching
other
by.
side of the marsh is the desert.
The scientific community has been shocked as much by this policy as by the intensive media coverage. They feel that science and business should not be mixed to this extent.
If anybody happens to spot a biosphere, let me know. Hopefully we'll get lucky.
So this is our beach, and it has waves. I don't know if you can see the waves,
Yeah, I can
but
see.
it's all artificial, of course. You can see the cliff around us.
Oh, wow.
These palm trees were brought in from Hawaii. This is a beach community from the Florida Everglades that came in from the Everglades.
Is that real, that cliff, or is it cement?
Oh, the rock. The rock is artificial. But up the stairs here is towards the rainforest. But unfortunately, the camera can't follow me further than that, so I'll come back. I went on a small expedition.
Now, what is it about humans that they will again and again destroy their own environment?
They are not conscious at all of what they do, no?
Absolutely ignorance of what they are, ignorance of the world they live in, greed and competitiveness. Greed mostly, no? You don't think it is greed that destroys the earth?
Oh, I think the humans have been the most difficult part of this experiment. The most difficult part, without a doubt. It has not been the coral reef. The coral reef didn't die. People said it would. It's not been the mechanical systems making the whole system go. It's the people. It's the people that are unpredictable. It's the people that are totally wild cards, no?
Yeah, I know. I know it's my business, you know. We're in the business of taming our minds as Buddhists. And that is also why we meditate, you see, to find out about our mind. Mind is like a wild elephant, you know. We're just led by the nose by our emotions. For Buddhists, we have many, many lives, not just one. We just like circle around in this great big circle of birth and death. And this is mainly because, as you pointed out, because of ignorance. Because all these negative emotions come from ignorance. But if there were only ignorance, if we didn't deep down have wisdom and kindness and compassion, then we would never be able to get out of it. And what we try to do is look into our mind and see the wild, untamed, crazy part of it, you see, and then get that under control and get back completely to this basic wisdom and goodness. Then when you're completely rid of the craziness, you're free. Sounds like a good program to you?
Yes. I think you should have come here and spoken with the 8 of us for a while. We could have used to have heard that. Obviously, for all of us, it was a look at ourselves as well. You couldn't escape it. You couldn't leave. You were basically within a closed world for 2 years.
IAB, cooking. At 11 o'clock, I'm meeting with some Job Corps kids on the calendar. Maintenance, collecting pollen in the lower Savannah and North.
Gail, are you all much fitter now than when you came in?
Yes, we're much skinnier. Some people more than others. I lost about 10 pounds, but others up to 40, 50 pounds. And that was something we all had to deal with. Hunger was a big thing in our lives. And right now I'm not as hungry as I was earlier because we are eating more. We've grown more food. Aside from the agriculture, I spend time in the ocean, at least 2 to 3 hours a day, taking care of it, from maintaining pumps to weeding. Funnily enough, the coral reef is like a garden, and of course it needs lots of attention. So I'm sort of the top predator. Instead of having a shark or a barracuda, I'm the one that goes in and keeps everything okay.
Sounds great.
That's the ocean story.
The bliss of your senses, your energy channels, sinews and joints are in reality bodhisattvas, while our worldly gods are but cushions for your feet. Our wishes pass not beyond sorrow until samsara's end.
This is Sam and her 2 daughters.
They live with her there too?
Yes, sure, there are 9 children living here, and some of them are born here, and they participate in everything. So this is my teacher, Geshe Tengye. Originally, of course, he's from Tibet, and he had to flee when the Chinese invaded his country, came to India, then went to Thailand, from Thailand to France.
So, yeah, in the commentary, we can say the self-cherishing mind, which is induced by grasping at the self.
Okay. Nuns have become very modern too, you can see.
Et les lits ne sont pas encore très ouverts. Peut-être les jaunes.
Look, this is where I am right now, you see. I'm talking to you from this room. This is our meditation hall. And we're going to have another religious ceremony in just a little while. Yeah?
Okay.
See you later then.
Yeah. Yes. Well, really, the Buddhist tradition philosophy, of course, is the individual that has to change. And so she met me there, yes, because here we are struggling to learn in our system how to do this, how to really act with intelligence. And she's coming at it from the Buddhist philosophy of transforming the mind. And if you're a better person, you will then hence be a better participant in the planet.
I showed her a bit of my life. She showed me a bit of her life. I have some idea of the professional person, but a person is never just a professional person, you see. We're a whole. And as I said, we've just scratched the surface. The surface is the professional person.
Hi, Annika.
Hi.
Hi.
Did you have a good day?
Yes, I've been so busy. Actually, I'm quite tired.
For me, this is early morning.
True.
I would like really to know a little bit more about you. You talked to me about your son, and I was wondering whether this wasn't really a very, very hard decision.
It has been hard because we have been physically separated. He's 5, and it was one of the most difficult decisions of my life to continue with my work and to come into the Biosphere and not to be with him for the 2 years, without a doubt. And I asked a very good friend of mine who has a family and a young daughter, his age, she's just 1 month younger, to provide him a family during this time. I do meet with him every week by phone. We also have a little video, sort of like what you and I are doing now, but it's little. And we can send images back and forth. And so that is, until I come out in 2 months, it has been hard because we have been physically separated. I've been very, very shy to talk about it because I really did not want to bring my personal life into my work life. It's a very public life.
Yeah. So it's been hard, hasn't it, this public life?
Oh, yes. It's very hard. Because we are constantly in the limelight. And the thing with the press that I have found is, in general, the press has entirely missed the story and made us out to be villains or creeps, or the project is fraud and theater and this kind of thing. And it was a real learning process how to actually stand up and say, yes, God damn it, I don't care what you say about me, I want my story out there.
Do you feel that that you can do it without anger?
Oh, well, sometimes, of course, I'm angry. Sometimes it's very upsetting. For example, I picked up a Newsweek article, gosh, it must have been almost a year ago. And it said that every day I go up and scoop dead fish off the ocean because it's dying. And at one time it's humorous, but when it's your life's work and you're being just made to look like an idiot, I mean, yes, this made me very angry because it hurt.
And when you get out, you'll be able to distance yourself still more, I mean, from the whole thing.
This is what I don't know. People have not done this before, so what's going to happen in 2 months when we step out that door? Clearly, there will be an adjustment back. There has to be. Even our physical bodies have changed. We've been breathing a different atmosphere, eating different foods. Without a doubt, we are physically as well as perhaps mentally changed people. We've been so isolated. It's like almost we're in a cocoon in here. We're so removed from the outside world in many ways that if you don't want to interact, you don't have to.
Yeah. I feel that myself because generally when I live here, I don't look at television, I don't read the newspapers, I don't listen to the radio.
What do you do for entertainment then?
I don't need any.
Really?
Really, yeah. I told you, all of this fell away by itself. And as a nun, you see, I have like so many vows. I have 348 vows. Can you imagine? And one of these vows is no entertainment.
Feasting is a real special time for us. After harvesting all of our foods, to make a big feast and to take a break, because we never take a break. We just finished a rice patty, which is all muddy, and they're mud wrestling. and we all placed our bets.
This is too much.
I started to write a book in here, which was a great challenge. I've never written anything on that magnitude, writing a book. And watching movies. I'm a movie fanatic. I love movies.
after 1/3 of the movie, whatever it is. It just bores me to tears and I leave.
Oh,
Funny, huh?
I'll have to tell you my most favorite movies I'll send to you and you could try one of them. But aside from missing people, which we did do, we also miss things like candles and like fires because we can't have them in here.
Oh, that I would miss so much, yes.
And so what we did was, this is us sitting in front of our fire, but it's not a real fire at all. It was a video of a fire taken before we came in.
Oh, how sad. Watching the fire.
And the funniest thing about this was it really felt like a fire.
Oh, dear.
During the first year under the dome, a series of incidents stir the press. A biospherian has to leave the dome for 5 hours for an operation on her finger, seriously hurt in an accident. Then, to compensate for the air lost by sealing tests, air is re-injected into the biosphere. Supported by their families, colleagues, and other friends, the biospherians vow to stick it out. In the summer of '92, shaken by the controversy, physically tired, they celebrate the first anniversary.
All you guys up there, you little people, don't forget, always ask questions. Don't let us big guys get away without answering them. So I have to raise my imaginary glass of champagne right now and propose a toast to the human spirit and to never say die.
Ineke, I'd like to bring in a very close friend of mine. His name is Laser. Laser's from Belgium.
Hi, Ineke.
Hi, Laser.
So je bent eigenlijk van Nederland?
Ik ben in Holland geboren, ja. Ik ben pas in Frankrijk gekomen toen ik 18 was.
Great. One of the incredible experiences in here for me was we're growing all our own food. For example, I like to have pizza. That means I really have to grow the whole wheat, I have to grow the tomatoes, I have to milk the goats, keep enough milk separate to make cheese off of that. And before that pizza is on the table, we're talking 4 months later. And so this experience is, to me, as coming from this Western world that is so used to grab everything I want to, open the fridge and it will be full of food, was quite an experience.
How does one get on with 8 people in such a small environment where you never really can get away from people for 2 years?
A very sobering experience.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I think in a certain sense I lost some ideals, or I sobered up really and said, the way I was actually looking at communities was everything is wonderful, but that is not so. Things aren't wonderful.
No.
And it is that
No,
the acceptance of that they're not wonderful is what actually is something I learned in here, to actually live with myself and accept other people.
We had times when, you'd cross somebody in the hall and you wouldn't look at them.
Yeah.
And we had other times, as you saw on the video with the fire, where we had wonderful times and we were all piled together in front of the video. But this is also so natural. Mm-hmm. What was unnatural about it was the fact that we were a very diverse group of people, and in any other situation, we would not have been found all together.
And the conflicts like that arise from, mechanical systems are more important than oceans. No. Rainforests are more important than mechanical systems.
A big one early on was, are we going to be researchers and just forget about the operation of the biosphere or not? Because there were many people in here that really wanted to get some research done and thought, good Lord, all this other stuff can wait and let's not worry about it. And worst comes to worst, we can just bring in food.
There was plenty of reasons for conflict.
Do you have the similar experience there?
Oh, yes, of course. In the Buddhist center where I live now, of course, we live on top of each other, and it's very hard. But I think that we have one advantage over you is that we have our teacher. And our teacher is really vital to us. Our teacher is what we call a spiritual guide. He is very much pivotal to the whole thing, just by his very presence and by his very strength and by his very wisdom.
Et donc,
You
si
see?
on cherche la cause à la manifestation de perturbations comme la jalousie, la colère ou d'autres, en fait, on revient toujours à la même source qui est le chérissement de soi.
But it isn't he who makes the decisions. As a matter of fact, he generally throws us back into ourselves. Ce qui m'a frappé quand je l'ai vue pour la première fois, c'est qu'elle avait des yeux, elle a un regard de méditant. Tu trouves pas ça? Elle a ce regard de méditant qui de temps en temps tourne complètement vers l'intérieur. Hi, how are you?
Hi. Good, thank you.
So this is the floor that my teacher lives on. So I would like to take you to his room now. This is Kashila. You want to say hello?
You see me?
Yes, she can see you.
Okay, hello.
Good, thank you.
Very happy. Yes, I was very happy.
Likewise. Let me bring in a friend of mine, Mark Nelson. He is the Director of Environmental Applications, and he's going to join us.
Hi, it's great to be with you this morning.
Bonjour. Good morning. I saw your place, very beautiful place, nature. I enjoy because my country also that they are all the nature. Okay. और ताते चिदां परवादा थंदुई चिक थर खरसोरे ता थरिक ता मट्रेवा ता परराशिंगी ने रवादा राशिंग थरे चिला पाटोया तमनुला थरे चिला टोटुया इचेची US.
We have to use a lot of technology partly because we have made a separate world, a very small world, and a lot of our technology replaces in Biosphere 2 what nature does so well and effortlessly, like making waves and tides and controlling climate. And in a way, what we consider to be some of the ancient technologies, like the way we harvest rice and plant our crops, nobody has improved on that for thousands of years. And in some cases, you don't need the technology.
That's Pakawa Hita is Penangazo Pella Chechogina, Ngapju Chitong Ngapju Kola, Rashing this, Rashing. 나자 신나서 강가 가서 떠가 나자 코도 떠가 떠죽지 해양 사대라 소아트당 막 떠 뭐저 같은 가자만 못당하면 그랬어 근데 떠나 다 사주 사이 쥐든도 냠 그랬어 로 사이 쥐든도 냠나 다 지금 들라 가서 사이 쥐든도 가사이 쥐든도 강가 냠 쪽이 그랬어 어때 와단 냠두터 바탕 아주 수비 지금 내암 땅따들은 망보 용하다 수비 리 톱식도 강가 냠도가 따든데 요랬어 와다 지당 달롱 중앙도 저랑도 차용보 약보 용기도 갔어 지금
I want to talk about the oxygen in our food, how things going.
Well, we injected some oxygen when it got down to about 14%. We were mountain climbing and we were at almost 13,000, 14,000 feet.
Level of Tibet.
We were climbing to Tibet very, very, very slowly. And because we've gone through some hardships, we lost weight. It was a difficult adaptation to the diet. When the oxygen dropped, it was hard on our bodies. That in a way, to be biospherian, we had to draw on inner resources.
We get as I said, a direct feedback externally. The mind is more tricky to catch. So our experience is a very practical one. It's a very immediate one. It's a very physical one. And the next step, of course, is the inner life and trying to catch that same change internally.
Hi. I'm not home right now, but if you want to leave a message, just start talking at the sound of the tone.
Truly, I've been transported to their world over there, which has been, for example, with Geshe Tenge today, I can almost feel him emanating warmth and goodwill, and he's on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean, and I'm in a biosphere too, and he's in another world.
Hello? Is anybody home? Well, you don't know me.
They've taken on the whole thing. You know, we don't live in a world of slices. We live in something that's a whole, and which we are part of. And they're trying to understand exactly that. And for me, that is really very, very important, very encouraging.
Léon!
Léon! Hi, Gail. Hi, how are you?
Oh, hi.
I just wanted to introduce my extended family to you.
This is Ineka's extended family, and this is the Biospherian team who's been here the whole time with me, of course. Roy, you need to come around here because the camera's right there. Can you see all 8?
C'est qui? Ça, c'est le lecteur, les autres sont les coéquipiers.
Adios!
Ciao! Bye.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Ils vont tous aller au travail maintenant, donc, parce qu'ils n'ont pas le temps. Ils n'ont pas le temps de rester. C'est leur travail à la ferme qui les appelle.
Bye. Thank you very much. Basically, in the command room where we are now, this is the hub of information. This is where all the thousands of sensors that are placed throughout the biosphere, whether it be the soil or the water or the air, feed in information to this room, to the computer systems here. This is CO2 average, CO2 max, that's carbon dioxide maximum and minimum levels for the day. Over here is the ocean temperature, ocean pH, ocean light, ocean salinity, the level of the ocean water. Did you follow me?
Yeah.
Okay. One of the most exciting things that happened in the 2 years was something totally unexpected. During the first year, we immediately saw the oxygen in the atmosphere started to fall, which is very surprising and something unexpected. But the wonderful thing about it was it showed that we had such a tight system that we were able to monitor oxygen. And on our own planet, our oxygen, the air you're breathing, is slowly declining also. The interesting thing, though, is where is the oxygen going? Is it going in the soils? Is it going In cement, for example, we have a basement full of cement. Is the cement absorbing it?
Would this really be possible, that oxygen would go in cement?
Yeah, we're looking at that now. We've sent out cores of cement to see if it has increased amounts of oxygen in it. And if that's the case, just think of what that means to our own planet.
Well, that's sure very interesting. I would say in that case the research really pays off well, isn't it? This is amazing.
It's not 8 biospherians doing all this. We're keeping the system going, but there's an extensive network of scientists who are working with us, who are on board. It's so minute, like along the core.
The Biospherians hold regular discussions via video phone with about 3 dozen scientists around the world. Here is Phil Dustin of the Cousteau team, expert in coral reefs. Behind the window is Dr. Gazenko from Moscow, who has done pioneer research on survival in closed systems.
Many people really love Dr. Gazenko, and they'd love to say goodbye.
Twice a month, samples of air, soil, water, and plants are sent out through the airlock.
You're just checking with Freddy. We are going for it.
They'll be analyzed by outside laboratories and used for research on genetic drifts, oxygen and carbon dioxide cycles, or circulation of liquids in the soil.
When you 8 people go out, I'm sure you're not going to just dismantle Biosphere 2, are you?
Oh, no, no, no. Biosphere 2 is a 100-year experiment. Literally.
100?
100. So when we 8 come out through that airlock door where there's no exchange of air, another 8 are going to come in to operate the biosphere. Our aim is to really track this biosphere for the long, long term, because it will through time diverge, it already has, from Earth.
20 years ago, John Allen, engineer and poet, developed the idea of a man-made biosphere. Before launching Biosphere 2, he carried out a number of ecological experiments all over the globe. But his vision goes beyond tangible reality.
Well, the next project is going to be the creation, really, of the intelligence, of cyberspace, in which we can move through not only real biospheres but virtual biospheres, so that we can get much more data even quicker. And so I think we'll have a series of biospheres, cyberspace biospheres, so that we can run through great simulations, and the biospheres will then begin an accelerated rate of acceleration.
Did you understand that?
Yeah. And I don't think that you can computerize human mind reactions and include them as technical data. I'd be very much surprised if that were possible, because one never knows what the mind's going to do.
True, there's the unpredictable nature as always, but to a degree the human can be factored in as part of that equation. We know that from our experience of 2 years, and so it can be incorporated into the cybernetic, and must be, especially in terms of the harmony of ecology and technology, which can create something new, a new intelligence, which the human is a part of.
Mm-hmm. A kind of mutants?
I'm sorry?
People who would be biologically very different from what we are now?
No, I think it's a progressive approximation to head to a point where a totality system with humans and technology and ecology as a Biosphere 2 system can be taken into the electronic world. I am of the opinion, and you obviously are, that humans can and must evolve. So hopefully in that process humans also are evolving. Are we understanding each other?
I'm just trying to digest this new idea. It sounds a little bit like a brave new world to me. More than a bit frightening.
Frightening?
Mm-hmm.
Ah. Uh-huh.
This kind of manipulative mind behind it.
A manipulative mind? Well, no, because we're not actually making Biosphere do anything particularly. I mean, we do affect it as humans, obviously. We've talked about that much, but...
And you would say that if you could sort of create like new biospheres, with the understanding that they evolve much more quickly than our planet does, and if you could keep them pure, of course, and unpolluted and all that, that then the species living inside would also evolve very much more quickly.
Yes.
Is that it?
Well, I
in
think
the process become more better adapted, more intelligent. Is that what you're saying?
Well, I think what you're saying is actually something that may happen in the future. But in the immediate, actually now, what we can do is try to understand what we've created. We've created this biosphere, a second world. And it's our responsibility to understand what it is we created. Biospheres are big, they're complex.
Sure are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me where you think for yourself your future lies. What are your hopes and your dreams?
Very simple. Just go on doing what I'm doing now. Only I hope to get better and better and come to a point that there's only positive energy left, which is something that we call Buddha.
Good.
To attain that state. Very simple to say, very hard to do. Sounds as way out as your as your virtual biosphere, doesn't it?
Two opposite
So we're
poles.
both into something that's way out.
No, great. Good. The inner and outer space.
Right?
Well, in the process of the outer work, we're only going to achieve that if there's also the inner work, for sure. Man cannot take these steps without that work.
That's what I feel. So, I mean, let's work together.
Great. I hope someday we'll meet, not across the video, but in the flesh.
Yeah, I would like that very much. But anyway, anytime you want to come here, you're welcome.
Thank you. Likewise. And the best to your community and to Geshe Tenge.
All right. I'll tell him, I'll give him your best wishes.
Okay.